Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. It is a new week. Although, I don't know. I'm looking at the overnight action. I'm not particularly encouraged by it. Let me fix my microphone here a little bit. Coming over here to the charts. By the way, I got this new tool. I don't know if you can see it very well. Can you see the little lines? Maybe I need to change the color. Maybe I should change the color or something. I don't know. You tell me what you think. We'll talk about it later. But looking at some major news events that we've had. So non-farms, equities did do well after that non-farms. But in the overnight action, a mixed handoff from Asia pushes down. All right. Now here in the treasuries, it was even more confusing. Oh, you know what? I need to put the here. Let's draw it. I'll do it. Event. It was at 6:30. Yeah. We'll put it way up here. Non-farms. Okay. So initially, interest rates moved higher, so we went down, and then we went way up big time, like even higher than we were before Powell started talking all hawkish. Like, what? So some people are saying, the reason the market is freaking out right now is because the Federal Reserve is going to raise interest rates. Is that? That's not consistent with what we're seeing. It's a little weird, right? Oil, a little bit of a gap up over the weekend. You know, we got to keep in mind that this is like way skewed, right? This is very, very skewed because that's a whole dollar right there. So pretty big overnight, over the weekend move. Natural gas just plummets over the weekend. Oh my gosh, so big. So weather has been mild here in Utah. It's been really warm for December, I would say. Okay, gold and silver, they're coming up a little bit, but still just kind of reeling after things came back so much, right? And silver, same. Kappa, not much of a move either. Of course, we got to look at the dollar and Bitcoin, and with the dollar, pretty big moves, but maybe the dollar weakening a little bit, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But the big one, man, Bitcoin, I'm sure we're gonna have to talk about Bitcoin a lot today. Look at that. I need a bigger chart because Bitcoin just got crushed. 48,390 right now. Basically dropped below 5,000. At some points over the weekend, it was around 4,500. So that's pretty ugly. Man, let's just pull it up on. Let's come back over here. By the way, good morning, Yosef. WineTube. That's a name. I think you've been here before, but I don't think I've seen that in a while. Let's go look at it on TradingView, shall we? So that we can see it like without the weekends and all that sort of thing. Oh my, we gotta fix it. We gotta change all that. So we'll just do BTC USD on Coinbase. How do I get rid of these other four? Remove volume. Maybe. How do I get rid of the other? Maybe I can click them. Delete? Yeah. Okay. So now that we're able to zoom out, you can see here in 2021, we had a big run and a crash. But then Tether came in and bought it. And now we are getting a similar sort of a thing. So is it going to do the same thing and kind of, I don't know. I have to say, I am detecting a change. 40K, 45K, yeah. Isn't that what I said? Oh, you got a job, and my view on Sweden is finally positive again. Oh, I get you. Oh, I remember. Oh, yes, a long time ago. I remember we're talking about you living in Sweden. Anyways, no, in social media, I am detecting a difference in the cryptocurrency market, like big time. So for one thing, the guys on TikTok are changing. They're all talking different. Like this move like prompted them. They're like, oh, like we got to talk about this and do this and all this sort of thing. Okay. That's the first part. But then the other part is that it's like they're waking up. So I saw a post over the weekend. Where was this one? I think it was on r/cryptocurrency. But that basically somebody saying this down move proves that none of the gurus or people on TikTok or wherever know what they're talking about because none of them saw it. I don't think that's true. I mean, I've been warning about risks in December, and I don't think I was the only person talking about that sort of a thing. So I don't know, but there was certainly a lot of people blindsided by it. They were just in the, in the bubble, right? But then the other thing that I saw that was really, really interesting was that there was a post on r/cryptocurrency about how after the dip, Tether printed another $1.5 billion. And there was a lot of discussion on that thread. I mean, there was tons of comments. It was a big Reddit thread, relatively speaking, for that subreddit. So there something is changing in the cryptocurrency market, and I kind of wonder if that we can really maintain the kind of momentum that we were having. This seems like a confidence destroying move. Doesn't all it take for a move like that for one investor to pull out 1B? Yeah, I mean, just about. I think that they were saying that one investor pulled out like 300 million or something like that, and that was what triggered it. Although, to be honest, it looks like an ignition event. It looks like somebody sold a bunch to try intentionally create a crash because they knew how much leverage there was out there with stops, and they do it over the weekend to increase their impact. Like that, it happened over the weekend makes me think, yeah, this is probably manipulation. And then, sure enough, the tethers are out there buying, right? So, and there was a pretty hard bounce too because they just created a huge liquidity hole, right? Which, by the way, I had made a video about that on TikTok that did quite well. 10K view video. Anyways, so that move is probably a manipulated move that bounces back very quickly. But when you look at the state of the market, you realize that like it would not take much for somebody else to come and do it again, and then you would have a real problem on your hands, right? So we have a situation where everyone can't cash out. If enough people sell, then most of the money will just evaporate. Yeah, because most of the money isn't really actually there, right? Because markets are inelastic. Now my shirt is like all messed up. Pretty sure. Well, they did just print more. They printed a billion and a half. But here's the thing. There have been, I mean, during the 2017 crash, Tether was printing, right? And it fell on them. So there can be selling out there that Tether can't hold, essentially. But I think the other thing though is that like people are realizing that this is happening, and I think that like people are abandoning it because they know that Gensler is coming for them. You know what I mean? Anyways, how are we on volume? I still feel like we're a little bit like, yeah, I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. Because sometimes, no, that's probably too much. The thing is in order for it to be like loud enough in my headphones, I need a different audio interface is the deal. If Elgato had made another audio interface that had 2 inputs, then I would do it. But I'm not going to stop unless I get to. So yeah, that's where we're at in r/cryptocurrency. I do expect that we're going to buy it. Now, I guess what we should do is we should probably load up and look at some options this morning, huh? Oh man. It's possible that we get the buy the dip. Like Goldman still seems to think that there's big amounts of money coming. But I don't know. But in the cryptocurrency, if this is the dip, not the dip, but I mean, oh, that's interesting. Zillow had a bounce, but I'm more interested in MSTR here. Yeah, they got walloped, didn't they? I'm thinking, can I do it? Let's see here. Where do I have to do it? Options, option chain. But like that. Okay. MSTR. And it'll show me what we had. And let's say that we go out to, well, let's turn off the weekly ones. Okay, so if we go out to January, they're expecting $70 of volatility? Really? Oh, it's got to be more than that. It's got to be more than that. For them just to get back up to 700 could be like in a week. That one looks like that. Wait, those are puts. Calls. Well, it's too rich for my blood, but it looks doable. It looks doable. You could probably even, well, these ones expire like this week, don't they? No, 11 days. So 2 weeks. I think that one is doable. Okay, now what was the oil ETF? UCO? I think it was UCO. Oh, okay. Was it UCO? Now I need to come and check. Or was it USO? UCO is the bigger one, huh? Yeah, UCO. Well. But where were they? 45? Wait, really? Let's come back over to this USO. Okay, so I thought maybe they would close the day at 50, but they closed it at 48. But like for January? Now the thing that I'm not sure about, on USO is that there is like on these kinds of ETFs, your performance doesn't 100% match what the underlying does. So if I say I buy 50s, I think we could buy 50s. Would maybe make sense. Well, we'll maybe come back here and see what they look like at some point. The options are often too expensive. Well, but that's like the whole thing is that, I mean, look at this. If we expect oil to hard bounce, then shouldn't it be easy for them to come back to 54? If we say 50, they come back to 54.5, then you're in the money, and that might just be this week, right? It seems like that these options are underpriced compared to how much it might move up. But I'm not sure if that's because of the price decay that you get with an ETF or not. But that just all seems a little sketch to me. You know what I mean? Goldman Sachs does not care about your account or mine. That's not how it works. Let me tell you how it works. They get these guys that are securities analysts, and they move them to a different city, and they lock them in a room, and all they do is research the market, and write their reports. Okay. I used to BS with Matt Hazius in the foyer. Not used to, I mean, I talk like that was a regular thing, but we talked a few times. Okay. He would probably remember me. If he saw me on YouTube, he'd be like, oh, I remember that guy. Okay. He is a cool guy, by the way. Like, he seems dull on TV, but he is actually really nice. But then the thing is like, you ask him a question, it's like, it's kind of like, oh, well, I don't know how useful this is to me on short-term trades. At the time, I kind of thought, well, I don't know how useful this is to me on short-term trades. But the sort of things that he would talk about when I had asked him questions were like so beyond anything that I knew at the time. It was pretty crazy. These guys, they know their stuff. And it has absolutely nothing to do with what the desk is doing. So the reason that everybody busts their balls about that, like, oh, what Goldman Sachs research says isn't what they do. Like, listen, Goldman doesn't do prop trading anymore. They had like one prop desk and they got rid of it. Okay. What they do is almost entirely about executing for clients. So if they say the Goldman desks, that's not what they're doing, it's because that's what the hedge funds are doing. It has nothing to do with any kind of decision that they've made. All right. But their analysis is good because they understand these things about what actually moves markets. It's the same as copy trading. It doesn't work. Well, I mean, obviously you have to do your own research, but I also think that people kind of misrepresent what analysts say. People say, okay, this analyst says you should buy this and you should buy this and yada, yada, yada. Listen, if that's what their intention was, why wouldn't they be running a fund off of that? If that's what the intention was, you would run a fund. I think I'm going to take that. Anyways, I mean, now some analysts will put like this buy, hold, overweight, underweight sort of a thing, but everybody always interprets it as, okay, this person says I should buy this today now, and that's never what's intended. So, but if you actually go and look at their reports, they make pretty good forecasts, and the Goldman analysts in particular for instruments like like for outlooks like what the S&P 500 is going to do, that they're extremely useful. And if Goldman is coming out here saying like, oh, there's a lot of money still to come in December, even after all this craziness, that's not something that I would just completely ignore. That doesn't mean that that's the trade that you got to make, but it's something that you should be aware of, right? But I definitely trust them. Just as an example, though, I mean, they can be wrong, right? Like their analysts, they were actually expecting a little bit higher than the median forecast for the jobs report. But once again, the jobs report, like, just absolutely surprised everybody in the market, didn't it? Goldman said oil was going to 90. Well, but that was, I think, before all of these other things happened, right? Like, they said, here's where it's going to go. And then the coronavirus thing came and they said, well, even if we price in like the worst, that still puts us at 85 or 80. And then they moved their target to 85. Hey, listen, I think they still get there. I don't think that they ever came down and said, well, in the next week that we think yada, 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 right? I am thinking, though, if I want to get in on oil, is maybe UCO is the right call. I mean, I could try and buy options in USO. It seems like reasonable. Or I could try buying 2. I don't know. I don't think that they're actually going to give me those prices. Like, I'm thinking, wait, is those bids or buys? Okay, like, if they were to give me $250, or no, quantity 2 of them, $250. I'm just going to put it in as a limit order and see. I don't think that they're going to fill me at that price, though. You were joking, but obviously it's the thing that everybody in oil's got to be thinking about, right? Well, the treasuries here are looking hawkish. What do you think? You think the E-mini's gonna buy again? It's usually not a very good idea to buy options when volatility is sky high, but when it's rising, they can still be very good buys. Yeah. Well, and I don't think that it is. I do think that volatility, well, I don't know, man. Like I'm looking at last week because we did not have a good week, and I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong and whatever. And I really think that it came down to underestimating the volatility, because I thought even the volatility is high, but I should be able to catch like good runners. And the reality is I did catch good runners, but I shouldn't be expecting it to run. I should be, I should be looking for smaller trades in that kind of an environment. And so, what, you want to do a poll on USO calls? Nah. Well, hold on a bit. Maybe think about what we think. What the correct poll here to have is. How I think I'm more interested in asking about the S&P. ES buy at 40. Oh, I kind of got NQL screwed up here. 45.60. So will we close the day above or below 45.60? If you buy options, make sure the volatility is low. Yeah, well, but like again, it's like I guess it doesn't really show me very well. I think that volatility is going to decrease, but it seems like that the options are underpricing the move in oil. So, like, that kind of gives us pause, doesn't it? I mean, it could mean that it's an opportunity, but I think it's more likely that we're missing something, right? Let's, I will pull that down, and I'll just, let me pull up something for, there we go. Put something there so that I can monitor it a little easier. I didn't lose my, I only vaguely remember that. You really shouldn't trade other people's money unless you have, like, you know, all of the appropriate licenses and stuff. So there was some trade when we were up here in this 4109 area, which was a long time ago. Well, actually, probably here on the open. In the treasury, like we had a big move up, and now we're having a big move down. IVR 0 to 50 buy neutral option strategies. So yeah, well, we could sell puts, right? Selling puts would make sense. Spread would make sense too. If we wanted to just get a tiny little one, we could just buy the underlying if we really want to be long oil, which is kind of what I'm thinking. You know, we didn't talk too much about China, but apparently Evergrande could default today, and the Bank of China changed the reserves required ratio by like half. So China is easing, and I don't know how concerned we should be about that, but that's what's going on there. What do you guys think here on the poll? 6 votes, you say, oh, it's 50-50. It's 50-50. Yeah, if you're bullish on the stock, but think the IV is too high, then you sell put spreads. I'm not sure if that makes sense, though. I like doing that on the indexes. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's got to be something going on there in the pricing of that I don't understand. The pricing is probably fair. because they're not pricing in that it's just going to bounce right back to 60. Or, on the other side, that oil is going to bounce right back to 70. I think it could happen, but I'm kind of wondering, because the way the treasuries are moving this morning is, I think, a little odd. And there was an awful lot of volatility last week. So I would be really expecting them to move back down to like 130 and 24 in the 10-year. But then there was a spike up here for no apparent reason. So I kind of wonder what's going on here, because that everybody's saying, the market's freaking out because the Federal Reserve is raising rates. I'm not convinced that's what it is. In fact, I think that some of this may just be like portfolio rebalancing, because it really feels like volatility just for volatility's sake. You know what I mean? I'm not sure if a more fundamental allocation shift is actually happening here. I think that it's more like people selling winners and buying losers and rebalancing their portfolio for the year end and getting ready to do window dressing and stuff. Hey, G95. I don't know. That second contract of course, didn't get filled. I should have been doing these on 2, but that's okay. Oh, you know what? We need to make sure Financial Juice is on. There haven't really been any big news, but New York City announces first in the nation vaccine mandate for private employee companies. Oh, de Blasio. So the thing I don't like about polls is that it blocks my view of your chat here in OBS. So I tell you what, I'll give you like another minute to go and answer the poll. And there's like 6 responses and there's about 28 here, so I'll give it a little bit more time, you say, if you want to buy or sell the ES today. I think I'm going to go with yes. So maybe you'll all vote no and go against me. Micro Ethereum futures are live. Oh, is that today? Oh no, they're having a webinar. Okay, so they're still kind of chilling at 01 there in the 10-year. I'm not really seeing any signs that they've really strained the liquidity. I would also note that liquidity is pretty good, relatively speaking. I mean, on Friday, we were only getting like 1800s, right? But now we're starting to get a lot of prices that are at 3,000. And I bet that once the S&P 500 gets going, that we probably will be above 3,000. So. And the amount that they're putting on the inside, I mean, they are kind of a little stuck there at 01, but I mean, it's stacking like 600 back and forth. So that's not bad. Well, I tell you what, right here for some trade, we'll give it lots of room though. We'll give it like $50 each side. Because there's a good chance that on the open you get some sort of washout, right? Man, 10 votes, it's still equal. Well, that just says that my whole thing here of like, oh, I should give it a lot of room both sides, it probably doesn't make much sense, does it? This is why I kind of wanted 2 contracts over here, because it's going to be like that. Yeah, tick back up. Well, not on very much volume. Well, okay, that is on a lot of volume. Wow. That was unusual, wasn't it? It was kind of a slow move, and then all of a sudden just whoosh. Like 4,000 or 5,000 contracts just like flooded in there. It was a bit more in the 5-year than the 10, so that could be some spread trading going on there. Though they are fairly equal there in that respect. I'm going to end the poll so that I can... it'll just be 50-50, I guess. Well, with the way that moved in the 10-year, I think we have a very difficult time determining just from the order flow what they're going to do, because it seems like that they're willing to trade, but, you know, it came up very impulsively. Fell right back into the liquidity hole that they left behind them. If it were me who was to trade in the American market, I would probably trade from the outside and fade the move, maybe. Well, I mean, fade which move? That is the question. CNN politics. What comes next after Supreme Court signal on abortion rights? You know what? That one is interesting to me, because we've had situations where the Supreme Court, they all asked questions that made them think that they were going to vote a certain way, and then it didn't turn out that way. Right? That has happened. I think that the reporting that you got going on right now says much more about the left's fears than it does about what the Supreme Court is actually going to do. Wow, Bitmart, which calls itself the most trusted crypto trading platform, loses $100 million in exploit. Jeez. Yoko Ono became the surprise hero of the new Beatles documentary. What? What? Oh, we're gonna have to read that. Get back dispels the long-standing myth that Ono broke up the band. Footage from the film shows Paul McCartney saying the relationship between the two artists isn't that bad, quote unquote. Okay. I still think she's crazy, but like the thing, so my strategy here, I think in ES at least, is I want to be long. I want to take advantage of a potential, buy the dip swing. If it doesn't work out, then we revert to quick trades because that means it's still volatile. Yeah. Okay, well, we did come back there with the liquidity hole and everything, but the volume is not turning back south in the treasuries. So more than half of Bitcoin's current investors got in over the last 12 months, crypto firm Grayscale estimates. Well, that's not particularly good, is it? Given the prices that we're at. I mean, we did get an okay spot there in ES. We would have gotten 2 points. Not quite. But 30 years seems to be pushing up, though. Maybe another flattener is coming in. The way that 30 is going, maybe another flattener is coming. I read that Iran is 20 days out from full enrichment. Will this affect CL? That's a good question. So I don't think so. The reports that we've been getting over the weekend about the nuclear deal were not very bullish on the nuclear deal happening. I think that there will be some volatility around Iran. If they are really as close to being able to make a bomb as some of the speculation is saying, then I expect Israel to be doing something soon. But we'll just have to see what happens, right? But I don't think that there's going to be like a deal anytime soon. That's the thing that would affect oil, right? Is if they were actually able to work out a deal and Iranian oil came back on the market. I do wonder if they because of what's going on, if they start, tightening the screws on China and saying, hey, stop buying their oil. Because right now they're buying Iranian oil and everybody's just kind of letting them despite the sanctions. So, I don't know. A little bit of selling there. 163.21 in the ZB. I read Biden told Israel to stand down. You really think that they're going to listen to him? I tell you what, most what is it called? What is the name of the Israeli intelligence agency? Listen, the Israeli intelligence agency, they're going to do what they feel they need to protect Israel. If Iran almost has a bomb, Mossad, that's right. Well, I was thinking Mossad, but then I was like, but isn't that the name of the leader? And anyways, nah, if they're going to get a bomb, Israel will do something. 100%. And that guy that won the Israeli election, he is not a dove. He is a hardliner on this sort of thing. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But maybe Biden's telling them stand down because he thinks that they can make a deal. The less likely a deal looks, and the more likely it looks like that Iran almost has a weapon. And then Israel will start acting. And they've done stuff. Yeah, Israel kills Iranian scientists. So that's the other thing that is I can't sort out, because Israel carried out many strikes against their enrichment process and all these other things. There's been unusual explosions and so forth. And after those things happened, when I read the news reports, I was reading that it set back the Iranian nuclear program substantially, but then we're all hearing that the Iranians are super close. So I'm kind of think that we have to have a little bit of skepticism around any of those headlines. We don't really know. Any of those could be disinformation by governments on both sides to try and manipulate the situation, right? But the one thing that I am certain of is that the talks in Vienna are not going well, and that the possibility of Iranian oil coming out on the open market is slim to none right now. So for short term in oil, I don't think it's something we have to worry about. Mm-hmm. European power prices climb following freezing weather? Okay, that's not what I was reading. Due to well below average temperatures across Europe, daily power prices in most major markets rose above 200 euros on Monday as increased demand increased reliance on costly fossil fuel plants. So then why isn't the natural gas moving back up? On TV, Iranian citizens pleading with the U.S. to not go back to the deal? What? I don't know, man. I sure am concerned that they're going to get a bomb. And then what happens? Because, like, the way that I see it, North Korea tried to get a bomb. Western world didn't do much to stop them. Iran tried to get a bomb. Western world, I mean, I guess they kind of tried to stop them, but in the end they were unsuccessful at stopping them. People in other countries got to be thinking, oh, I can start a nuclear program and nobody's going to do anything. I don't know, man. Of course, you'd have to be in a country that was already kind of being sanctioned, but yeah, Pakistan has nukes and nobody cares. But Pakistan is not as, Pakistan has problems, but they are a democratic country, and I don't know. Clearly, they're not worried about Pakistan using them imminently, like the way that Iran does, right? There's unrest and they believe cheating will continue under the deal. They housed bin Laden, but all of the evidence suggests that they really had no clue. We could speculate. I think it's fair to speculate he was so close. They must have known, but without any positive evidence that that's true, we can't really say that. And from what the U.S. military has said, they believe, at least the U.S. military. Maybe we need to go look this up again. But last time I looked, my recollection was that the U.S. military believes that Pakistan was clueless. So I don't know. Why should you care if they have a bomb? Because they'll use them. Like, obviously, the less nuclear bombs there are, or the less countries that have nuclear bombs, the better. Okay. But there are some countries that we are more concerned about having a bomb than others. And Iran and North Korea are the two that we're probably the most concerned about having a bomb. Okay. Didn't China say they will defend Iran? Well, but here's the thing: is if something happens, it's going to be probably going to be pretty covert, right? It'll be like there was an explosion at a test facility that analysts believe is a nuclear testing facility for Iran. Nobody claimed responsibility for the attack, yada, yada, yada. That's what it'll be like. Israel will always use covert means if they can. Well, every country uses covert means if they can these days, it seems. People think, maybe I'm speaking out of line here, but people think that since World War II, and especially since Vietnam, that the world has lived in an unparalleled period of peace and prosperity, and that conflicts between nations don't really happen anymore. Well, it's definitely true that we have lived in a period of peace as it pertains to the number of outright open conflicts out there and the number of U.S. soldiers dying, for instance. Okay. But what happened was the nature of warfare changed. It was no longer, especially when nuclear weapons were around, it was no longer made sense to have open conflicts like that. And things moved much more to economic battles and secret agent kind of battles. And so there's the secret agent battle war has been brewing for a long time. And Israel and Iran basically are at war for all intents and purposes. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, that would have a significant impact on geopolitics, and I'm not quite sure where we'd go from there. It's a little scary to think about. Similarly, with both Russia kind of eyeing Ukraine and China kind of eyeing Taiwan, and you kind of wonder if at some point they just both of them decide to go for it or something. I don't know, man. It's kind of, but I think that they're mostly just testing Western powers. I don't think that they're actually going to move in with the current state of things. The Western resolve would have to deteriorate considerably for either of those two things to happen, I think. Not a foreign policy expert. Well, I'm more of a foreign policy expert than... it's kind of interesting how there was a time, not long ago, 3 years ago, actually, when I put it that way, it's like, that was forever ago. There was a time when the geopolitics was a major factor in the markets, or wasn't it? And nowadays it's like a non-factor. But maybe we'll go back to a period where it matters. Oh, did I get 10 points on that ES long? Good deal. Hey, that was an easy trade. You know, I don't want to put on more risk than necessary, especially in SPOOs. So I'm okay with having done it as a sim trade, but it sure makes me feel like, maybe we should try, this would be a good point for a few ES longs. Probably what should have happened is we should have just backed off last week when things were going crazy. Like, this keeps happening, and I'm like, what's wrong? Is there something? Am I like undermining myself? Is it subterfuge, like self-sabotage? No, I don't think that's what it is. I think that I'm increasing risk, and then the volatility comes, and I keep the risk high. And really, I should reduce the risk and wait for the volatility to pass. Because even though there's some great trades buying the dip there, when it turns bullish or whatever, if that's what happens, you get great trades for months, you know? You think this will be a very dangerous 2022? The risks are certainly lurking out there, aren't they? Well, we did have that move in the Treasury. They pretty much chilled out. It wasn't enough for me to really tip us off that there's like some large meta order going through. And if there is a large meta order going through, it could be a spread trade. It could be a flattener. So that doesn't really help us much in knowing where the treasuries are going to go, other than that the S&P 500 does look somewhat bullish. And so maybe the treasuries will have to sell. Good morning, Gary. But maybe when the S&P 500 starts moving, we will see more movement in the Treasury, which is the general thing that tends to happen. Oil having a little bit of a down move here, by the way. Still kind of seeing things both ways, but it's a Monday. It's definitely a Monday, right? Kind of looking like it'll probably be a relatively active Monday, though. So there is that. That market ear pointing out there that oil has been on the downturn this morning. Well, maybe we don't want. Maybe this morning is not. When it was last weekend, I was looking at options on USO. I was like, well, I don't necessarily want to do it on Friday. You did a Lilo. You can do a Lilo tryout for $20. Wow. Well, it's just volatility, man. Like the more I think about it, the more I'm realizing that when this volatility comes, you just get destroyed. And the volatility probably destroys more accounts than anything. Now, should it be that when the volatility comes that we should really just be going for a lot of small scalps? Maybe. But I kind of suspect that's not a silver bullet, you know? See all on the downturn, very funny, stop reminding me. Well, I'm going to cancel this order and look at what the option chain looks like when they open. Oh, it was a Black Friday deal. I missed that one. I was going to make a video about Black Friday, but when I recorded it, I didn't like it. But you know what? Part of why I didn't like it was I watched the video back and I didn't like the sound. And then I'm like, oh, is that the sound on the stream all the time? I got to fix the sound on the stream. Bitcoin was fun on the week. I don't know what, if you're short, I guess. Oh, the Bitcoin, just a big mess over the weekend for sure. The risk out there is the Omicron shutdown rates to rise in weak data. I'm not convinced that that's what it is, though, Gary. Weak data. I don't know. So for instance, Omicron. Well, all of the preliminary data that we have suggests that Omicron won't be a big deal, or at least that it's not very severe. And we had one day where they reacted really strongly to an Omicron headline, right? But then we've had subsequent headlines that they just completely ignored. And on the interest rate side, I mean, rates are at 1.4 in the 10-year right now. So is that really like the market freaking out about higher interest rates? How can the market be freaking out about higher interest rates and we've dropped all the way back to 1.4? Like 30 basis points down. That I don't think makes much sense. So I think that the volatility may be coming from other sources, like portfolio rebalancing. And just, volatility for volatility's sake. People are trading it, Now, in terms of the treasuries being higher here, Omicron, that would be in line with Omicron, that the market thinks Omicron is going to hurt the growth trajectory. That certainly could be. And I think of the way that oil has moved too has certainly been like in that vein. Okay, well, we're back down to 131.010, and there is a relatively large offer at 1.2 that kind of canceled when they came up to him. Yeah, that turned very quickly, but the ES is going, so. They need to show me more strikes here. What do they say at 54? Okay. Well, put another one out there. We'll see. Okay, so the Treasury's bouncing in the 01 area once again and kind of coming back to a midpoint balance area. Now the 5-year, when we moved down, the 5-year had much more aggressive volume. And that did lead to a little bit of flattening in the 530 spreads. So it still looks like we could potentially be getting some flattening. What we think on Omni is insignificant. It's what the participants think. But again, I'm not convinced that it's the participants are that concerned about Omicron. I think that there is some evidence to that, but I don't think that it's conclusive. And I think that there's still a couple of weird things going on in this market. Well, there's ES selling on the open, wiping out the pre-market gains. Now, there's always going to be a bit of a sell, so that doesn't mean that this is going to be a risk-off day. But it certainly doesn't look good at the moment, does it? And the treasuries are coming back up there pretty easily. They were down there. Yeah, I'm not particularly liking this squeeze. The liquidity is still looking kind of sketchy. Like, look at those, how much it took for them to move up there. Do you think the 10-year wants to go to 1.25? Oh man, I feel like that sounds so ridiculous. I think you're crazy. Mm-hmm. I mean, the treasuries did come up there and everything, but again, like the volume is very tight and kind of, it's like liquidity is doing weird things. So we'll see where they go here. The trend down, though, in the ES looks pretty extreme, doesn't it? I mean, at the moment, that's kind of looking to me like something that doesn't necessarily recover, but maybe we're wrong. But I'll get out of that trade. And just kind of monitor the ES here, see where they go. And I'll put my stop out on here too, because I'm probably gonna forget. Oh, look, it's already so close. News Squawk just posting a thing about how many funds have basically performed very poorly this year. It's true, because the index has only been driven by a handful of stocks. Yeah, it's pretty extreme amount of selling there too. How much? Almost 5,000 sell on the open, huh? Yeah, that's not... Let's flip around here, shall we? I don't know. They're still kind of within ranges. The overnight low was actually 31, so... Is that the dip right there? Has definitely detected a change there. It's awfully hard for me to buy the dip here in the ES with that strong of volume on the open down. Nah, I don't see the 2 and 10-year spread moving at all, man. It has not moved at all. Look, they're all about even, actually. There was a little bit of flattening in the 530. Mostly, I think, from the 30 getting spiked up. Okay, so there you have, there was a little bit of a pullback, but they've already turned back into, we're going to sell it. There might be a deeper pullback though in the books. I'm not convinced that's the low of the day, but there might be a deeper pullback from it. Yeah, Nvidia. What was there was a piece of news on Nvidia. They were like being sued or something like that, right? I think that one might be a good one to watch for maybe a longer term buy if this hurts them. You say that it's probably Bitcoin related too. Maybe. The thing that's so great about Nvidia though is that it has so many things going for it. The chip shortage has been good for it. Cloud computing is good for it. The metaverse is good for it, and Bitcoin, yeah, but well, so can you see now? We're starting to see some flattening come in across the curve, right? I'm still not seeing it in 2s and 10s, but I am definitely seeing it between the 5 and the 30, right? So you can see here, the actual 10-year rate is still where it was. 3.9 or 1.39 rather. I have a hard time listing out prices in the 10-year yield, don't I? Okay, so there's back to 50. And pretty strong volume on it too. Well, that didn't quite go the way that I wanted it to, but that's okay. This is interesting. We should have bought the dip there, man. Well, I did. I mean, I did with a sim order. I really thought for a second, like, oh, let's gamble a little, Seth. I could still do it at the open. Is this some miracle dip? I don't know. Financially ruined by Bitcoin once again. Eric Jazz, stop trading Bitcoin on margin. Okay, well, they got to the open, back to the open. Didn't trade through the open though. No, don't speak like that, Eric. Just stop. Don't joke about that. You'll be fine. Just don't trade Bitcoin on margin anymore, please. Well, this is going to be an interesting one. If the S&P 500 turns bullish, and they're kind of on the edge of doing so, then we could have a pretty wild stop run higher, couldn't we? But at the moment, they are just all over the place, and it's difficult to sort out where the next turn is going to be. If they turn back down there or if they push further. I'm going to say that they go further. Like the way this volume is sorting out. In fact, man, they're probably still going to fight in that area a lot. But with the way that that went, So are we getting some of the inverse sine law in here? I think a little bit. But we're already back to the opens. I don't know. I think that we would need to continue to have some volume for us to rocket back up to like 45.70. I keep looking at this like I wouldn't mind trading ES here this morning, but like look, it's the volatility is there for pretty extreme, right? So 2600. Oh, I do see that up at 05. Or are you talking about the one at 31? You must be talking about the one at 31, huh? Well, I don't know. I've seen a couple of large orders here, not like huge ones, but somewhat like last time that we were down at these prices. Actually, it was when we were at 01, somebody started stacking at 02, but then they got skittish and left. And we swung back across the range again. You're talking about the one at 130, 131. Okay. It's interesting that the spreads have moved a little bit, but overall, the cumulative deltas have been sell through this whole thing in ES. Or sorry, not in ES. In all of the treasuries, all three of them had a relatively significant decline in cumulative delta, despite it being flat, if not up through some of that range. So there could be some more downside pressure. And one has to wonder if they're able to break below 01 here in the 10-year, if we don't start to see some players fretting. But the book is still relatively relaxed. Like, you know, it's not taking a ton to push it. There's not a ton of volume going through. You're going to YOLO in with every last bit of your buying power? Well, I think that if I was trying to trade Bitcoin right now, I'd have to be going long. I mean, there's a lot of risk on it, but I think that Tether's going to try and buy it back up. Right? EU is considering relaxing Omicron travel restrictions on Southern Africa. There you go. That's good. Oh, did I not get my... There we go. I was like, that would be one that I would think I would hear on my new squawk, and I'm not. Okay, so now Now I'm seeing the 30-year get dragged down and the 5 and 10 just sitting there. Now that's odd. Is that spread just reverting already, or are they gearing up for a move lower? Gearing up. They're going to get dragged lower. I'm going to set it there. Suppose it probably still depends on if ES is able to buy up to a new high. Okay. Buying still coming in the ES, just kind of slow and steady now, though. And now the 5-year leading the way down. And the 30 reverting back up. So maybe they're going to push another leg on the flattener here. That there. And tick back up. It's a bit of progress there on the bear side in the treasury, but it's not, it's going to have to take quite a bit of a dip further to really get anything exciting out of this, right? Does Bitcoin drop reminds you of the COVID flash crash? Well, it appears equal in magnitude to the one that we had earlier in the year, right? So the thing is that these stable coins are buying the dip like hardcore. They printed a lot more money. So I think that we should be continue to be concerned about Bitcoin for the month of December, but at least in the short term, there's probably going to be a good bounce. I think another thing though is like I think people are only just now starting to realize it, but Bitcoin's not doing the same things. Like it used to always be like, oh, there's a cycle. Here's how far we think we're going to get in this bull cycle, and yeah, I don't think it's like that anymore. Like we're well past the amount of money that they had to print and everything. It's behaving differently because of the manipulation. And all of the Bitcoin bulls are kind of starting to realize that, and I think it's a little scary to them. Because again, like I said at the beginning of the stream, there's been a big change in sentiment in the social media. People are talking about Tether now. People are questioning the efficacy of all these people on TikTok telling them to buy Bitcoin. It's the sentiment from the retail traders is very different from anything I've ever seen in Bitcoin now. And it's all of a sudden just at once. And this tends to happen that, like it did in 2017. It's just like all of a sudden, all at once, all the gurus disappeared, right? Everybody stopped watching. Same thing kind of happened when COVID hit. Like I had a pretty good subscriber base for my Buffett indicator for cryptocurrencies. And when COVID hit, that 1 month, there was a ton of people that like canceled all of their Patreon subscriptions. Oh boy. While Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube have been slammed by lawmakers and privacy advocates, LinkedIn has largely avoided the same kind of scrutiny. You know what? I've been liking LinkedIn. I've been spending more time over there, and I'm enjoying it. It's got problems. The way that it selects what you see is weird. I don't think people like that, but okay, we are definitely getting flattening in here. You can see now the 5 continues to try and push down. The 30 is dragging it up. It's very choppy, yes. It's like I said, when the volatility increases, it's like you can't win, right? You have to take like the small little trades and hope that you're lucky. I don't know if there's really a way to deal with it other than, doing the options and like buying and selling volatility itself. Kind of puts into perspective a little bit, why there's this much focus on volatility. Is there, like, we've always thought of it as like how trendy or rangy it is. But I'm starting to find with order flow and everything that's the trend is not necessarily the thing. It's the volatility. Well, despite the flattening and the 30-year raising up there, they're all, the 5 is still kind of pushing down. 6J also looks pointed down. You can see it right here. They're close to their lows of the session. Yeah, another thing I should note, ZN right there at 131 even. Normally you would get a lot of trade at that price, but so far they've been reluctant to go down there. Tesla shares slide 21%, nearing a bear market. Yeah, well. By the way, what about oil? How's oil doing? It's not bad. Not bad of a bounce. It's kind of just being volatile and uncertain around the opening prices like everything else. 30-year taking a little bit more extended of a move up there while the 5-year is still at its lows. A little bit more excursion in ES on the bear side, but still coming back to like that 45, 60 area. Arc, well, that one, I mean, we called that one at the beginning of the year that like there's a reason why the one that performs the 1 year underperforms the next year, right? And Kathy doesn't understand all of the things that we know about order flow and so forth that would make her investment strategies a bad idea. It's been across the board though, right? There's so many of those stocks. Are you seeing that list of all these stocks that have had like 40% declines this year? It gets pretty crazy. I was surprised that there was that many. Kind of made me realize that like everybody that's in the boat of like small cap stocks has been struggling with that this year. So do you think it's possible to ever get a limit order filled in options? Because if I go and I place an option like right above the current bid, they outbid me. So it's like, oh, what kind of volume would need to come in order for me to actually get filled behind the robots and options? Just volatility, I think so, yeah. This could break one way or the other. The treasuries are definitely doing some interesting things here. If I was to make a call, I think I would be erring on the bullish side in ES. But for the time being, there's just like a lot of volatility and trade going through. Well, they're saying 2s and 10s are good, but 2-5 spread. So I don't chart the 2s and 5s. So I can only chart so many. But you can just kind of see it on here, like on this move flattening. Where did the volume come in? It came in the 30. I think that this flattening is a much longer term trade. Like some people are saying, the Federal Reserve is heading into a interest rate policy mistake, rather, and that's why they're flattening it. That's the line that Zero Hedge posts like literally every day, no matter what the Treasury does. But when I look at it, I'm not necessarily seeing the 2s and 10s flattening as extreme as I am on the 30. And so I think that the call that they're making, more broadly speaking, is that while in the short term interest rates will rise because of current central bank policy, that the larger generational forces that have been creating deflation are unlikely to go away, and that the interest rates aren't going to be able to rise very much. And that's why they've been going in on the 30-year end of the curve. So you can see here, like the pressure in the 30 is dragging us, and the 30 is almost up to its highs of the day. And of course, the 5 is like at its lows of the day, but the 5 is just kind of like chilling there, right? Like there was a big sell in the 5, but then since then it's just kind of been chilling. Well, actually, I take that back. Some of that volume came back out. Seeing more people tweet about Tesla. Could be hard for the indexes to get to really take off if Tesla is doing that poorly, huh? Well, the 30 came back there pretty quickly, a good 3 or 4 ticks. It's funny, I'm thinking 4 ticks in ZV is not that much, but today it feels like it is. It's actually, volatility in Treasury actually hasn't been that high, has it? I look at this and I'm like, well, this is a pretty wide range, and we're going from the top to the bottom to the top, but it's really just because it was been in a range, and usually by the time we get into the regular session, there's a much greater move. But we've been spoiled lately. We've been spoiled. I should say, even though volatility is like really high right now, it is less than it was last week, right? It appears to me that it is declining. Is it a 16 tick range in ZV? That's 09, 10, 20. There's 416. Yep. No, not much. Well, I don't know about that. So we got a CPI print this week is a big one. You know, if the treasuries really do give it up here in the end today, this could be a very advantageous spot to try and hold something through the CPI in anticipation of another hot CPI print. Which is, CPI is Friday, right? Let me double check that. Yep, CPI is Friday. So we got CPI Friday, and then the FOMC is next Wednesday, right? So we got those two things, and then it dies down, right? I guess there's core PCE December 23rd, but after that Federal Reserve meeting, assuming that the markets don't, assuming that they don't do something at the FOMC that upsets the markets and really roils them, then you could probably see the equity markets just really die out. Yeah, for sure. So now there's a second down tick. There's still not hitting into 131. Surely this time they touch, they'll be more amicable to it. No, maybe not. They want to buy back at 005. Okay, well, 3 orders touched it. That must have been one of you guys, huh? Think. No, maybe now. I saw the 5-year tick there, and I thought, oh, okay, now they're gonna give it up. It'd actually be really interesting if they trade through 131 with like only 1,000 contracts and then blow through it. That would be unusual. I don't know why I think it's a possibility here. It's like going through my head. The most likely. Oh, well, there you go. they pulled at 31.5. So they're not that interested in 131 even today for some reason. They're more interested in that big old monster order at 31. Bitcoin markedly underperformed rivals like Ether with its weekend drop, which may underscore its increased connection with macro developments, says Bloomberg. That, or it's because everybody on Wall Street is trying to buy Ethereum. Which I think is kind of funny because Ethereum does have advantages over Bitcoin, but it has all of the same problems. So all the same problems. Okay, that's a little bit more like what I would expect to see at 131. It's not like a ton of volume trading there or anything, but they traded a few times. Now the ZB has yet to push below 163.16. So it's still kind of holding its support levels so far. Oh, S&P 500. I haven't been paying attention too well because S&P 500 took off there real nicely. Real nicely, yes. See, this is where I was, remember I was saying, oh, I wished that I took it. Well, that whole mess back there, you could see exactly why it was a good reason for me to stay out with my live account. But now they are moving pretty good. And the question for me is, where should I take my profits? Actually, 80 is not a bad spot, but we're getting continued pressure, so let's just... They kind of look like they're just getting started. What about oil? Is oil? No, oil is not turning up. Okay. Well, I never got filled in my USO contracts. So maybe you probably weren't here when we were talking about that, Gary, but we were looking at USO. Here, let me show you here. So like on the options chain, like if I look at 54, they're only given $1. Okay. So like it seems to be suggesting like we could get back up to 55 pretty easily. You look at where we're at right now, 45, that's 3.5. So to 52. Okay. But like these are January's. Shouldn't by January we be back up in USO to like 60 is potential? Like it feels like that they're very underpricing it. But then I'm wondering maybe it's like that because, you know, these don't follow oil 100%, right? So maybe oil bounces back to 70. USO doesn't go up quite as high because of, you know, the way that the ETF works, and you kind of lose a little bit of gains every day. Is that why? Because it seems to me like they're underpricing the potential volatility in USO. So it's just kind of weird. I can't sort out what's going on there. By the way, the 30-year did give up the 16. So this would be a good place to recenter. Still kind of got my eye on that big old order at 130.31. Why trade ETF options? Well, I don't necessarily have crude oil options on futures. I have to say, I just got burnt so bad on oil, right? That I'm just like, maybe it's better to just not touch it. Keep an eye on it, but maybe it's better to not touch it and just do it with a stock. Way less risk on that one. Yeah, like it just as an example here in oil, it looked okay at 68 and it dipped all the way to 67.5. So like you have to risk at least $50 in oil. If not more. But the options on the ETF is just really interesting to me because it does seem like they're underpricing it. I'm not sure if the people in the oil market are just that, the sentiment is just that bearish or what. Okay. Now to 131. Do you think that, well, that order should not pull, okay? That's been there for a while. It's a big order. It's pretty prominent. Anybody trying to play shenanigans with 31 might find themselves the subject of an investigation. It looks like they're having a hard time. Well, not a hard time, but nobody's really too anxious to hit into it yet. I wouldn't be surprised if some of that order converts to an iceberg and tries to hide itself, but I bet you that it's still going to take at least 5,000 contracts, if not more, to trade below 31 in the 10-year, if they trade below it, of course. It's a big if, isn't it? But the S&P 500 looks pretty game on right now. 80 is an area where they were before the non-farms number on Friday. And the high of the non-farms was 4606. So that kind of gives you an idea of maybe upside targets. Actually, that price 81 is basically what the price was before non-farms got released. You can see from my lovely new chart with my cool trade, with my cool, yeah. but that's what I'm saying, Gary. Don't trade USO. It doesn't track the underlying. It's about roll on futures on oil. Yeah. So my question is in USO, we know that if you buy USO, and you bought oil, that you'll make a larger percentage gain on the straight oil futures themselves than you would on USO. Now, I don't know if that goes both ways for both upsides and downsides or what, okay? But my question is, when you look at the chart, it seems that being able to get back to 58 is something that could happen in way less than a month. So then why are the options trading it as though that's extremely unlikely to happen? Is it because that not tracking the underlying perfectly means that it's harder for it to come back up to 58? Or is it because they really just don't think that the bull case in oil is that good or will be that quick? I'm interested in the only reason I'm interested in USO is just because it's got some cheap options. I like being able to define my risk well, right? In oil futures, I just can't do it. I tried and I lost a lot trying. But I still believe in the fundamental trade. And hey, the trade that I was trying to make was the right trade. I couldn't handle the volatility from it. Oh, the treasury bouncing off of that big order there a bit. It's been a while since we've seen an order that big at the higher low in the treasury, isn't it? Now this is interesting. This bounce back here in the treasuries was led by the 5-year. So they have just steepened all the way back out almost. I don't know if that one is sustainable. Well, let's see what happens. Ten-year certainly came back to 131 even pretty easily. Okay, well, there's a little bit more volume looking to buy it at 31.5, so that's something. There's the 5 getting smacked back down. There is an unusually large number of new chatters on Discord today. Okay, on USO, what are the puts quoting equal distance to the current strike, same as calls? Okay, good question. I think I get what where you're talking out. So if we say we're at 49.50, so if we say 1, 2, 3, 4, so at 4 they're quoting 122, and then at the same one we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and the puts are quoting much less. Puts are good 40 cents less. There does appear to be more people trying to buy the dip in oil than sell it. No, they're not higher. Would maybe be a tell that they expect further downside, yeah, or at least that there's more people interested in making bets to the downside. But if that was the case, it would certainly be quite eye-opening, wouldn't it? Because it's the exact opposite of what you'd expect. You'd expect that, well, given the knowledge that we have, at least, we should expect that oil is going to bounce and bounce hard. Yeah, now it's an 8K. Look at that. Yeah, he's moving it around. He wants the fill, and he's saying, I will compromise with you. I will do half at 31 half and half at 31. These ones are tough because I've never really found a good way of... I've never been able to really predict what it's going to do in this kind of a situation. So I've seen, when I was going through the big orders, oh, by the way, we got to do that right now. I tell you what, guys, we're going to end the stream early so that we can watch the... oh, actually, you don't need to end the stream, but we're going to watch the premiere. Maybe I should watch the premiere. I should send you guys... Actually, I can come over here and change this and so that it will send you to it. Nah, they traded down through 131 and none of that 3,000 got executed. Well, I think, maybe I show you an example of almost exactly the same thing, except for that it's big offers. And they did eventually all get traded, but I don't talk about it in the video, but you can see it as you're watching the video. So, hey, I'm going to end the stream and send you guys to the premiere, okay? Catch you tomorrow.